You know, MNCs are looking at a China plus one strategy. You know, so you've also spoken about it in your budget speech. You know, we've seen that the manufacturing and export of mobile phones from India has really gone up. Which are the other sectors in manufacturing that could benefit out of this China plus one?
Well, the PLI that we've given out with
Yes.
13 sectors is definitely a China plus one list, which is sunrise sectors, which are important sectors for India to have its own strength. That's exactly the China plus one kind of a.
Okay. You know, there is a funding winter in the startup ecosystem. In fact, some of the startups that were doing really well have come off their valuation highs. What is the government specifically planning to do about this? You know, this government has done a lot for the startup community in the last few years. So what next? What would you do?
But I think the funding is also waiting to see more innovative startups claim for the next stage. It's not as if it's a funding winter or it's not now a scarcity of funds. It's more funds seeing the opportunity that is available for them. And they want to look at better options also, even among the startups.
Right.
And India, which started in 2016 in a major push, I'm sure startups existed before, but the push happened with the Honorable Prime Minister in 2016 announcing a policy and subsequently coming up year after year some concession. So they also go through a cycle, one round done, the next round of good options. They are there, they will, I'm sure, be available.
Nirmala ji, you will be meeting the G20 finance ministers and central bank governors later this month in Bangalore. What is your message to them, and what are your main agenda items that you will take up and highlight?
The agenda, of course, is by now fairly well determined. We will be talking about the debt situation globally, because many countries, which were even middle income countries, have suddenly got into debt traps, and those traps are really vicious traps. They are not able to come out of it. Now, during the pandemic, debt servicing, there was a scheme which the IMF and also looking at the G20 formulation, there was a plan which had come, debt servicing. And many of these countries didn't have to service their borrowing for a certain period because of the pandemic, and there was a call for extending it. It was extended. But we are also making sure that enough monies are available with these institutions, multilateral institutions, so that they are able to better respond to situation, have better leverage over the funds that they already have with them. So these are matters of discussion: debt servicing, also debt financing, multilateral finance institutions and their reforms, about which Honorable PM has spoken several times: UN reform, IMF reform, WTO reform, World Bank reform, and so on. So we'll be discussing many of these. Also looking at a global kind of a SOP to be available, to be agreed upon for regulating crypto assets,
Right.
whilst recognizing the central bank as the authority for issuing cryptocurrency. The rest of the assets which are being created outside, which are using very useful financial technologies, even those will have to be discussed, because regulation cannot be done by any one country singularly. It has to be a collective action, because technology doesn't brook any borders.